Welcome to Troy and the Trojan War. Here's a quick look at the semester through our course syllabus. Please feel free to refer this video anytime that you like during the semester to clarify any questions that you might have. So to begin, you already know where we meet and when we meet. My email address is there. I have two different Gmail addresses that I'm sharing with you so that you can use both of them depending on what your preference is. The nature of office hours is a little bit difficult for me because I'm an adjunct instructor. I am a full-time teacher of Latin at Ridgewood High School, so I am here all day instead of on the campus of Montclair State. That means two things. Number one, I'm available to you by email all the time because I'm very tech friendly, but it does mean that you will have to create appointments for any sort of office hours that you would like. Generally speaking, I can create office hours that are before our class on Mondays. However, Mondays are also the day that I have faculty and department meetings at my school that I am required to attend. I am more than happy to help you construct an office hour meeting via Google Hangout or via Skype in any time that does not happen on a Monday itself. As far as required texts go, I'm actually using a brand new approach to this course this year, and we are going to be using a text called The Descendants of Troy, Readings in the Humanities. I've given you a link on the syllabus. This text should also be available at the Montclair State Bookstore. This is what it looks like, Descendants of Troy. We are looking for the second edition of it, so if you're trying to get a version that's not from the publisher or from the bookstore, please make sure that you get the second edition whenever you're ordering it. We're going to be using this text from the first day to the last day of class. So you don't really have an option of just, borrowing it for a short time from a library or something like that. As we talked about in our first day of class, the story of the Trojan War has fueled lots of interest in the humanities. We have a lot of discussion about the characters in the war, what it means to be a hero, what it means to not be heroic, how to honor traditions, and what the traditions of the Bronze Age culture really were. We're going to look through these lenses at all of the literature that we'll be reading through the Descendants of Troy. As far as class procedures go, every time that you come to class, you're going to be taking a reading quiz based on the reading that you accomplished for that particular class. You should also take notes on the reading that you're doing. It doesn't have to be a detailed account, but it should be some sort of notes that will help to inform your studying on the topics moving forward. You should be taking notes and reading it so that you can participate in the class discussions and activities that we do in our class on a weekly basis. The quizzes are anywhere between 10 to 15 questions or so, and they incorporate the basic facts of the reading. They're all multiple choice, and you will complete them electronically. In class, you will be required to use a laptop. If you don't have a laptop, you can use a tablet as long as you have a keyboard to be typing with. You cannot just use just an iPad because there will be a lot of typing involved and you don't want to find yourself shorthanded. After the reading quiz, we will proceed in the class with a variety of discussion and activities about the reading assignment. We'll connect each week to the weeks around it using the themes that I mentioned earlier. It is very, very important that whenever you're doing activities or you're listening to lectures or you're participating in a discussion, that you are not using your laptop for nefarious deeds. It is a matter of respect at this point that I am wanting you to use a laptop, so I don't think that you should be using it for Twitter or Facebook or Snapchat or anything else that you might be inclined to use during the class time. You're going to miss out on really important information and procedural things if you're not using your laptop for the good of the class. Also, since I am allowing you to use a laptop, I would please ask you to refrain from using your phone during class. I'm not going to be sitting up in front of the class texting my husband, so I would hope that you would not be texting your friends about whatever your plans are. Attendance is as mandatory as it can be. understanding that obviously life intervenes sometimes, and sometimes you get sick and things happen. So as much as you can, you need to arrive on time and you need to be present. If you have more than 2 classes absent throughout the semester, your final semester grade will lose a letter grade for any subsequent absence. If you are absent for any one of the graded assignments that you'll find on the following page, you will not just be writing me an email to let me know. You also must get a note from the Dean of Students. Simply a doctor's note will not suffice. You need to get official dispensation for your absence. So try not to be absent. As far as the grades that you're going to be getting this semester, you're going to be getting 30 points each from the weekly reading quizzes, multiple choice, true or false, fill in the blank, nothing that's too taxing or too heavy. It should take no more than 10 minutes at the beginning of each class. You'll get a grade for each activity that you complete, as that counts for class participation. The activities that you'll be completing are discussions, lecture notes. We have some sort of fun activities planned as well. It is very important that when you do these class participation exercises, do not simply just divide and conquer. So if I give your group 10 discussion questions, I do not want you assigning 2 of them to one person, 2 of them to another, 2 of them to a third person, etc. I want all of you participating in the entire experience and not just 1/5 of the experience. After we get through the readings in the Iliad and in the Odyssey, you're going to have a cumulative activity on Homer that takes place on October 24th. I'm going to give you an essay topic in class. You can use your books and your notes to answer the essay questions, so it's really imperative that you're taking good notes. Another activity that you're going to be completing later in the semester is something called Bring Your Own Tragedy. There are a number of dramatic tragedies that occur with characters from the Trojan War. So we'll talk about this more as we get further into the semester, but you're going to choose a tragedy that you want to read based on the characters or based on the actions, and you're going to create a presentation on the tragedy itself. The presentations will be given in class on a particular day, and on that day, you almost get to be professor for a day, explaining the actions, explaining the consequences, analyzing the work, providing any background information as you wish. This could be an individual exercise. If you have a person that you would like to work with in class, we can make it a more partnered exercise. After we get through the readings of Dante's Inferno, later in the readings of Descendants of Troy, you will also do a Dante cumulative activity. You're going to have to do skits as groups. There will be specific questions that are regarding Dante's poem, and then there'll be a rubric that will be graded for it too. And then finally, we get to your final exam, which is actually not going to be an exam for the first time that I've taught this course. Instead, you're going to be doing something called a 20% project. Google has a notion of 20% time, which means that every employee of Google works at his or her job for 80% of their work week, and for 20% of their work week, they are expected to work on a project of their own choosing, something that fits into their own personal interest within the sort of general venue of their work at Google. So, for example, somebody who's very interested in fitness might be working for Google on an app that helps them develop something that counts steps for their Android devices. So you're going to incorporate the concept of 20% time in our class. You're going to be choosing a topic that is closely related to something that you are interested in, and yet it is concerned with the topics in our class. And you're going to do research on that topic and develop it into either a research paper or a 5 to 10 minute presentation. This, like the other assignments in the semester, will be graded for a rubric. Some examples of 20% projects from the past. I had a pre-education student who was doing some of her field work in her sophomore year, and she chose to write a paper on how Homer uses storytelling as a form of education. I've also had students who are interested in economics talk about the Bronze Age economic policies. So those are two examples of 20% projects that you might consider pursuing. Additionally, I want you to take notice of the academic integrity policy that Montclair State University has adopted. It is highly offensive to copy somebody else's work and to pass it off as your own, whether you are cheating on a test or a quiz by looking at what a classmate is answering, or if you are lifting the words of somebody else who has written about your particular topic. Either way is considered plagiarism, and it is considered a violation of the academic integrity policy at the university. And there are pretty significant consequences for violating the policy. So failure to uphold the policy will certainly result in consequences. I hope nothing comes to it this semester, but I would like to just put that out there for your consideration. Finally, on the third page of the syllabus, you're going to notice an approximate schedule of classes. I hope that I've broken it down into an easily manageable way so that you can differentiate between what your work is before you get to class and then what your work is when you're in class. All readings are from the class text of Descendants of Troy, except for that Bring Your Own Tragedy Day. So today is September 12th. We didn't read anything for today because it's the beginning of the semester, but the topic of our discussion and our activities is the background mythology on the Trojan War. We're going to talk about heroism, and then we're also going to briefly discuss how to take notes on the readings that you'll be doing in the future. Next week's class is September 19th. For September 19th, you need to have read in your textbook the Iliad. It's books 1, 6, and 9. You don't have to pick out those books. Those books have been pre-selected by Descendants of Troy, and they're all there in chronological order. Next week, after you've read that and after you've had your reading quiz, we're going to talk about why and how the Greeks are battling internally. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the nature of heroism as it's presented by the characters in those 3 books. September 26th is the other half of our Iliad readings, books 16, 18, and 24. We're going to talk about what it means for the war when Achilles re-enters it. And although we've been talking a lot about the nature of a hero and what it means to be a hero, when we get to October, we're going to be reading the Odyssey, books 1, 2, and 5. And we're going to talk about what it means for the society when a hero is absent. Telemachus, as his name is here, Telemachus is the son of Odysseus, and he is missing his father, and he is sort of betwixt and between in a lot of situations. We're going to spend a few weeks doing readings on the Odyssey. Books 1, 2, and 5 are for October 3rd, books 10 and 11, and then, of course, the end of the Odyssey, books 21, 23, and 24. Afterwards, on October 24th, you're going to have your very first graded assignment. We're going to have a cumulative activity in class, as I mentioned earlier, on the nature of a Homeric epic. On October 31st, you're going to be reading the Trojan Women, which is a reading that's given to you in Descendants of Troy. But I do need to let you know that that particular class is going to be online exclusively. As we get closer to the date of class itself, I'll give you more details on what it means for us to have an online class. But it will be an online class that day because, to be perfectly honest, I have 2 young children and it's Halloween, and you can't miss Halloween when you're a mom. In November, we're going to read about more survivor stories. So we'll read pieces of the Aeneid from Descendants of Troy on November 7th. On November 14th, that is Bring Your Own Tragedy Day. As I said, we'll be talking about that more in the weeks to come, but there will be a series of presentations that day, so you will be the stars of the show that day. Afterwards, we're going to talk about sort of the Roman view on the war via the Roman poet Ovid. Again, this is a reading in Descendants. You don't have to find it on your own. And then throughout the end of November and beginning of December, you're going to read parts of Dante's Inferno. And Dante's Inferno was written about 1,000 or so years after the Aeneid was written, which was about 1,000 or so years after the Iliad was written. But Dante's Inferno has many of the same themes of heroism, and it has a similar structure to the journeys that we've been reading about earlier in class. After we finish Dante's Inferno, our penultimate class will be doing a cumulative activity on Dante. And then our last class will not be a final exam, but it'll be a time where you're going to be giving your final exam presentations or coming to watch other people's presentations while you hand in your paper. So we're going to have, a really fun semester ahead of us, I think, I hope, when it comes to looking at the heroism of these Bronze Age folks. I hope you understood everything that I was trying to say here. If you have any questions, please email me. Please make some time to discuss things during office hours, etc. Have a good night.